We got the Bearjew, Paul Craig, in a light heavyweight contest against Jamahal Sweet Dreams Hill, man. Paul Craig opens up as a plus 240 underdog against a minus 300 favorite in Hill. My first question to you, AJ, this is a clear matchup simply because it's the contrast of styles, right? You got a grappler in Paul Craig versus a dude who will literally knock your face off in Jamahal Hill. Off the bat, man, why do you think this matchup was made? Who do you think is being tested more? Do you think Craig is being tested more or Hill is being tested more in this matchup? Because Craig has a little more experience.
Yeah, I agree with you, and that's what I'm going to tend to lean towards more for the answer. I think Craig is a little more experienced, so I think Jamahal is going to have a little bit more of a test on his hands. Especially Paul Craig might be a submission specialist, super well rounded. He's going to get any amount of takedowns and then submission attempts as he wants, basically. But he's very fast on that front foot. He's a very light front kick, and he can bang, man. He can throw some serious, real deal power. But Jamahal Hill, he's just kind of that young gun. We don't know what's coming. So I think that's where that underdog aspect comes into play right there. Where Jamahal Hill, he throws from the hip and throws heat all day long. Makes it a fun fight. Who do you think? Who's going to be tested more?
Well, listen, man, I honestly think that Hill probably is going to be tested just because it's like in his last fight, he fought Ovin St. Preux, who is a real deal submission specialist as well. Like he'll fight you on the feet, but he can submit. I mean, it's the Von Preux choke now for a reason, right? But with that being said, man, Paul Craig, he reminds me of a Ben Askren in a way. You know what I mean? Now, his striking isn't nearly as rudimentary as Ben Askren's is. However, that he sets up the striking simply to grapple. Like he's not sitting there like, I want to box you. That's not necessarily what he wants. And as you pointed out, in his last fight against Shogun Hua, it was the rematch, right? I believe it was the last fight. It was one of his recent fights. Craig opened up with his Muay Thai stance. You know what I mean? Very light on that front leg. And it reminded me for a second because I'm like, okay, you're going to use some Muay Thai kicks or whatever. He got a really good teep kick, which is, you know what I mean? I definitely enjoy that. But the way that he stood, it made me kind of feel like, oh, are you about to take like a Taekwondo approach to this fight? You know what I mean? Are you going to just try to kick, do it all over the place? Because he doesn't really use his hands. He might throw a jab, he might throw a big right cross or whatever, but he ended up just focusing on the teeps, and I think that he kept that front leg light because Shogun Hua was threatening with that calf kick, right? So with that being said, AJ, that's something that we need to consider. Jamahal Hill isn't much of a calf kick thrower necessarily, you know what I mean? He likes to use the hands. He opens up in a very sweet boxing stance too, man, a very wide-legged. It's interesting because it's a wide-legged like Deontay Wilder boxing stance, but at the end of the day, being that he has that boxing stance goes to show you that this dude has a tool that a lot of other MMA fighters don't possess, right? Which is real technical capabilities on the hands. Paul Craig, man, this is the question that I have for you, AJ. Does Paul Craig, like he does in so many other fights, does he walk you down Damian Maia style so he can grab the takedown? Does he do that to Jamahal Hill, or do you see Jamahal Hill saying, no, I'm going to do that. I'm going to walk you down? Jamahal Hill has to be careful and apply his pressure very educated and strategic so he doesn't get taken down, because he's got a 53% takedown defense. It's not the greatest, man. So give me your thoughts just off that bat. Who wins that battle, AJ?
I was thinking of exactly that, Derek. Who's going to be winning the back and forth in the pressure match? And this one's going to be hard. Paul Craig, he doesn't mind coming in and letting the pressure advance on him so that that way he can shoot the takedown, get underneath, go for the submission. But at the same point, Jamahal Hill, he kind of starts a little slow, at least in that last fight in the OSP. They were taking pictures a little bit. They were going out. And then once Hill started to get tagged up a little bit, that's when the fire came out. You see him start to bite down on his mouthpiece and start swinging. And if he comes out like that, if Jamahal Hill comes out like he's fighting in the second round right away, I think he's going to lead the dance. I think he's going to do a lot better off the front foot, going, pushing. But at the same point, he's got to utilize that 79-inch reach and utilize that advantage he has inherently and just stay from the outside, picking apart, push in, push out, maintain that distance. It's going to be a hard one, though, with somebody who's experienced like Paul Craig. What do you think, Derek?
I mean, I absolutely agree with you, man. It's going to be a difficult task, a very tall task, but if he can overwhelm him early, I think that's probably Hill's best chance at winning, in my personal opinion, just because the longer the fight goes, if Hill gets a little bit tired and then Craig wraps him up, tangles up those legs, and then goes for a heel hook or goes for an armbar or, a rear naked choke, whatever the case may be, I just always like these grapplers who can last throughout the entire fight. Like all 3 rounds, they could choke you to sleep. You know what I mean? For Jamahal Hill, we've seen him fight 5 rounds before, I believe, maybe once. But have we seen him do crazy wrestling defense, you know what I'm saying, throughout an entire fight, because that's the thing that tires you out. That's what we always talk about is like, yeah, it's cool, you're a wrestler, whatever the case may be, but by using your best tool, your wrestling, I'm not saying that's Hill's whatsoever, but by using that tool, you're going to cost your fatigue, you know what I'm saying? So will the conditioning be on pace? Ultimately, I think that a good quote to use for this fight, AJ, in terms of Jamahal Hill, is death by 1,000 feints. Does that make sense? You know what I mean? Like, I think that when you have a rudimentary striker, like a, you know, Paul Craig, I'm not saying that his striking is bad. I don't want to say that. But when you pressure him and you make him go backwards, he does the Dusko Todorovic. You know, he just goes backwards. He doesn't circle out. He always goes backwards and puts his chin high in the air like he's just trying to escape the punch by, you know, lifting his chin, which we know is a cardinal sin. So 1,000 feints by Jamahal Hill is going to freeze up the offense of Paul Craig, is probably going to disrupt that timing. And the best chance that I think that Paul Craig has is he gets that blast double and he goes to work and just keeps Hill on the ground the entire time. So I don't have too much necessarily to say about this, except, I mean, let's just talk about the accomplishments and you know, those things, right? Paul Craig, he's a BJJ brown belt. He's tied for the second most submission wins at light heavyweight with 6, and he has 5 total fight of the night bonuses. I mean, these are still young kind of fighters, so they don't get the most accolades, right? Jamahal Hill, BJJ blue belt. He's a former regional champ at 205, and his nickname is Sweet Dreams for a reason, because he'll knock you to hell out. 4 knockouts, 4 decision wins, but 12 submission wins for Paul Craig out of his 14 total. At the end of the day, Paul Craig is on a 3-fight win streak, and Jamahal Hill's on an 8-fight win streak. And let's not forget, he should be on a 9-fight win streak, because his fight with Klidson Abreu got called a no contest because he got tested positive for marijuana, which is like, now we should just expunge all of that, right? You know, but listen, that's neither here nor there. AJ, who is your pick and why for this contest?
Derek, I think this one's going to be a grinder of a match, very fast paced, but I'm going with the Bearjew KO round 2. Paul Craig is going to grind it out, get it done. And I actually expect, and this is coming from somebody who loves scene striking, I expect Paul Craig to shoot for the takedown, grind it out all day long. It's going to be on the ground. If Jamahal Hill can stand up, it's going to be a lot of a very fun fight. Who you got, Derek, and why?
Well, AJ, I'm going to take something from your book. I'm going to take something from what you said many, many weeks ago. But oftentimes we will refer to these strikers and we'll say they have no takedown defense. You better been working on your sprawls, right? But sometimes the best takedown defense is the clean left hook, my man. But this time for Jamahal Hill, I think it's not going to be that left hook. I think it's going to be that left cross. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going Jamahal Hill. I think that he overwhelms him in the first round, knocks him out. KO, round 1, Sweet Dreams, Jamahal Hill, man. I love that nickname too, man.